We are live, it says. I guess that means we're live. That's new. I've been sitting there reading about some of the updates they've done to StreamYards. It's getting pretty good, pretty interesting. I guess I better check and click comments and make sure it's going to show those. And new comments will appear here in real time. Boom, there's a notification from from YouTube. No, Facebook will take one. For those that didn't get a chance to watch The Proof is Out There tonight, y'all should check that out. It's a good episode. Had Amanda and Alan Bishop and Amanda were on there. Awesome. Of course, with Wayne and Damon. What's going on, G. Liz? I ain't seen you in a while, brother. Good to see you. What's going on, Master Brothers? Hey, I'm just chilling, man. I've been out picking leaves up all afternoon and cleaned out my gutters and got done about 7, jumped in the shower, got out about 7:30. So, man, I'm worn out. What's going on, my grip? Good to see you, brother. Yeah, I'm tuckered. All right, well, let me see here. I reckon I better spread the word. It'll take me just a minute to get it out there. Every time I open this, I can't stand it. Y'all same way. I don't like listening to my own voice, man. I don't know if y'all that way or not. I'm sure some people say, yeah, I don't like listening to your voice either. That's funny. But yeah, it was a good episode last night. I got in a little bit late on it and I had to watch it after it was. I got in when it was about 3/4 done, and I fell asleep last night and got in late and was about halfway, well, 3/4 way done. So I had to watch her again later last night. But it was a good episode. They talked primarily about the drip rate, and we can continue the discussion here if you want to. They pretty well covered it pretty well. My buddy Slacks did ask a question. I don't think they understood his question. He was talking about the flake stand, and I can't read any comments right now, so I probably shouldn't do anything but get these damn links out until I can see comments. But I'm going to talk about that while I'm doing this. So he was asking about having a larger inlet or a larger outlet on your flake stand and a smaller inlet. And the reason for that is they were talking about being able to maintain your coolant temperature in your flake. And if you have a larger exit than entrance, you can actually increase the water flow going into your flake and give you a little more circulation if you need to get colder. If you need more circulation, it gives you more flexibility to adjust that flow rate right at the input. If you have a valve there, you can open it wide up, and if it's forcing it through, if you have the same size outlet as inlet, it'll never drain as fast because you're not forcing the water back out unless you have a canister, flake or an enclosed flake. So if it's an open top, it's just going to spill over, right? Because you can only push so much down that 3/4 inch or whatever size you got on there. So if you have 3/4 on the bottom, 3/4 on the top, and you're forcing the water in through the bottom, it'll never, you're going to overflow because it'll never be able to just naturally gravity drain as fast as you're forcing it in. So if you got like a 3/4 in, if you have like 1.5 inches out, just a PVC going to back to your reservoir, you can have a little bit more control over the flow and the coolant temperature. And I think that's what he was trying to ask about. And I don't think they quite understood it. And I think he might have, when he worded it might have been worded a little funny. He could have probably been drinking Slacks. That's what happens when you drink and ask those questions. But yeah, I wanted to put that out there because it is it is something that you want to consider when you are building a flake, and you want to have a, a little bit bigger, outlet, so you gives you a little bit more flexibility in how much coolant, and it gives you a little more range in abilities to keep it cool. And they talking about the distillate coming off, and I talk about how you want it between 65 and 75. I think Alan said 62, 72, which is even tighter, than I try to keep it, which is a pretty good tolerance, and it's right in line with what I've been preaching. But yeah, it was a real good episode. And something they talked about too, about the uh, drip rate. It's if you have a 5 gallon still, it's probably a good idea to run it as a fast drip, because it's just, I don't know if you could really get a good stream out of a 5 gallon still without really overdoing it, or scorching, or running it too hard. Um, but as your steel size increases, once you get to about a 10, you can, like I say, run about as fast a drip as you can get, to where it just begins a little tiny pen size stream is about right for a 10. But once you get to a keg, 15 and 20 gallons plus, pencil lead. But like Amanda was talking, and what I've said as well, when you get big ass steels, like a 500,000 gallon steels, man, it's coming out of there harder than a garden hose. I mean, we're talking some of these big ass steels in some of these, huge distilleries. It's like a fucking fire hose, man. I mean, they got some shit coming out of there, man. They got big ass lines, and I mean, it's coming out hard. So, and they can run those, believe it or not, big steels, if they proportionally, increase the heating capacity. A lot of, some use induction, some use multiple coils, and some are using multiple gas and controlling their heat. And if you can heat it up and run it, you can run a 500 as quick as you can run a 50. If you proportionally increase the size of the line coming off of it. There's a lot of variables involved, and I'm not going to get into steel engineering. I'm not a steel engineer, nor do I profess to be, but I do understand a little bit about the science behind it and how it's scalable. Everything has to be scaled up proportionally, and if you can scale it up proportionately, you can run a 500 about as quick as you can run a 50, if it's scaled proportionally. But it was a great episode. I wish I'd been able to get in there a little bit earlier and ask a couple of questions. I could help those slacks with his comment. I didn't hear all that until after I watched it, after the show was over. I hopped in there and helped him with it, because I knew what he was talking about, because it's something I've talked about many times, and it is a good idea, if you're building your own flake, and you want to see what Mark's on. So I ain't gonna post that link till Mark's get done with his. I'm not gonna step on anybody's toes. Just saying, I can't see comments now, so give me just a minute. I got a few more to go, and we should be done. But me talking ain't helping. It's hard for me to do two damn things at the same time. But it's a good episode. Y'all should definitely watch it, and you should follow Amanda and Alan on all their. I think Alan gave all the list of all his places. Great source of information, guys. Great source. Good guy too. And it was great seeing Amanda as always. right, just a few more. I'll be done. I got some Mark a message that I ain't posting no video link while he's doing live. I'm not going to post on his page while he's live. Hell, that ain't cool. So let me send him a message. So I'll keep it open so when he's done, I can take care of that. Okay, that's good. All right. All right. All right. I can see everybody now. I'm already behind. I'm already behind. What's going on, Hellbilly? All right. In your condensation with the worm, should the water come in from the top or the bottom? Bottom. You want it to come in from the bottom, and you want it to be cooler at the bottom and warmer at the top, and the same with your worm. Consequently, that's the way it works. That way, you have that cool water coming in, and your worm's cooler at the bottom, and you want it to gradually get cooler, right? As it comes, you don't want it to shock, and that's something they talked about last night. And they, they hit on something actually that Amanda, made a point of something that I really hadn't considered. A lot of people think that when you run when you have your distillate coming out hotter or a warmer temperature, that it's hotter than if you have it coming out cold. So, the like we were talking 62 to 72, Alan says 60, 65, or I mean 65, 75, I always said. And I think Alan said 62, 72. So, yeah, that's right in the same tolerance zone, or the Cinderella's on there. But you can run it a little hotter to get some notes, but some people run it real cold, and they have their distillate coming out real cold. And they were talking about how some people think that it's smoother when it comes out cold like that versus it's hotter when you're condensating it at a warmer temperature and it comes out warmer. And Amanda made a really good point that I hadn't thought about. But when it comes out warmer, it's kind of fools you, because when it comes out warmer, a lot of those high volatiles are off gassing. So when you're smelling this as you taste it, and it smells and tastes a lot hotter because those are off gassing. You're smelling it, you're tasting it. Whereas when it comes off real cold, it's more locked in, right? Like a lot of people like to freeze their liquor and stuff, and you can even freeze distill. So into the oils, your oils that generally make it smoother, are hardened or saponified when it's coming out real cold, and they're not when it's coming out warmer. So you're not getting that. The oil is not giving it a kind of a like a glycerin effect, I guess you could say. But definitely those high volatiles coming off there, it was an excellent point that I never really thought about. And that's why we kind of leave our jars open for 24 hours and let those high volatiles evaporate off. They definitely evaporate quicker than ethanol. They're lower boiling point, and they cook off quicker, and they off gas your worm, as it's coming out. So, and they were talking about some people having vented worms, when you get up to more complex distilling. But yep. But yeah, you definitely want to go into the bottom and out the top, and that's why you want a little bit larger, outlet at the top too. That way if your distillate's coming out at, let's say 80 or 85, and you want it to come out a little bit cooler, um, you either got to drop in a jug of ice water because you can't increase the flow because it's pretty much draining as fast as it's being fed, right? So if you have a larger outlet, you can increase the flow, increase that cool water coming in, and be able to make that adjustment without having to, cool down your reservoir water more or drop that jug of ice in your actual flake around your worm or something. So, yeah. Should you restrict the flow in your liebig by constricting the cool water in or hot water out like you would a worm? Yeah, you want to run your deflegmator differently than a worm. It's generally much warmer water going into a defleg, but it depends on how much you want to compress. There's no right or wrong to that answer. It just varies on what you want to come out and how you want it to come out. If you want to compress, what I generally tend to do is I'll run without a defleg until I get to my low heads, and then I'll crank my deflegmator on, and then I'll start getting a little bit more reflux. That way I can cook off all that fours and the high heads without any reflux. I don't want to compress those back down. I don't want those. Now sometimes you do, and it really depends on what distillate you got, what you're going to do with it. So if you're going to age it, some people might turn that deflag on sooner, right in the middle of the heads coming off. That way you can kind of compress those a little bit. They touched on it a little bit last night. Sometimes for aging, there's certain esters and things that you can get out of those heads. There's a lot of flavor in heads. So aside from ethyl acetate and acetone and the higher volatiles, there's a lot of good esters in the heads. Now they may not taste so good. We've talked about this many times. They're not good for white dog. They're not good for something that you want to drink instantly or something like that. It's definitely not good for that. But if you're aging, turning that deflag on maybe in the middle of the heads, or I do it towards the end of the heads. It depends on, if you plan on aging or not and how much. But if you do, then you can compress some of those and mix it and smear it throughout the run as you would normally, because you want that in your distillate, believe it or not. Some people are like, oh, you never want heads in there. But not true. Sometimes some of those heads that you want in there and some of those, high tails that are right next to your hearts, you want a little bit of those in there with it, those oils to help mature over time. We've talked about the acid, how they work on the oils and they create polyphenols and flavonoids and all these things. There's a lot of good flavors in those heads. So if you just strip out all the heads and you just do hearts, that's great for like a white dog, because that's something you're drinking immediately, and it's something that doesn't really have a chance to even age. Now, even jar aging, if you off gas, like we do, we leave the lid off the jars, and you can aerate it. Some people talk about using fish tank bubblers in there to kind of aerate their liquor and make it bubble and get it working a little faster. But that helps, too. If you can, put the lid on, shake that jar real good, and just open the top every once in a while, that'll accelerate it, get some oxygenation, and get it moving and get it off gas, and that helps as well. So speed the time, right? You don't want to leave it sitting out all day. You can do that and speed it up about 24 hours, some longer depending on what you got. This is fine for off gassing. And but yeah, but for your liebig, yeah, you and the temperature and the restricted flow, you can. I've got valves on mine on my water lines going into my deflag. I generally use the water coming out of my condenser to go into my deflag because it's generally pretty warm coming off there, and I can use that kind of as a pre-condensing liebig. But as I've got valves that allow me to mix. Both going into my liebig, so as things go you can cool it off the more you want, and so you can kind of compress those low heads all the way into your hearts, into your high tails, kind of compress those all together. And then when I get to the tails, I turn everything the hell off and just go to the condenser, and I crank everything up, and I burn through my through my tails and kind of increase the flow rate and increase the heat and do all that, just so I can get through those tails that I'm not going to do anything with except rerun the next time. Okay. What's going on, Matt? Good to see you, brother. Howdy, Clint. Good to see you, brother. So you're not partying and swarping this Saturday night, huh? I see. For y'all you don't know, Clint's a rapper, man. He gets up there and busts a move and he does the rapping thing. And that is that what you was doing, man? Rapping? Bust a rhyme, bro. What's going on, John? Did you say you did say hi? Sorry, brother. Missed that. What's going on, Rob? Good to see you, brother. So I hope everybody's having a good weekend. What's up, Scott? Awesome. Got him a new PC. Man, that's awesome, brother. So you ready to start gaming with me, playing a little Call of Duty? What? We ready to start busting them up? And I enjoy playing those games, man. It keeps my ninja reflexes honed, right? Right, right. And and it depends on what you're going to do, John. So if you're shooting for white dog and you want something that you're just going to drink instantly and not age, then I would tend to not even use the deflegmator until I get right to where the hearts begin, or the bottom of the heads, and make my final cut, and then do the hearts run. We also talked about cuts on the fly versus the jars. So I recommend all beginners and intermediates to just do the jars. It's going to be easiest for you. But I also want you, as you're doing that, you know, get that distillate, get that stream on your fingers and rub it and smell it. Get it and smell it, rub it. Get it aromatic. So when you rub it and rub it, it makes those volatiles want to gas off, right? So you can smell them better. So learn to do that as you got it coming off. That way, as you get experience, when you start getting into, you can just run it into one bucket. There's the heads, hearts, next bucket. Low heads, hearts. If you're going to age, here's the next bucket. And okay, well, tails are here. Let's, and you can tell by the way the drip hits, and I've talked about this, and Alan touched on it last night too, is you can tell how when your stream hits the surface, and you got that surface tension, and you've got beads and bubbles coming off, and you can tell when you're getting into your hearts because of the oils and how they react when they hit the surface of that water, and it will definitely change when you get from hearts to tails. So that's a good visual cue to look for, as long as smelling. That's why I say, use your eyes, watch how it's hitting. A lot of times you can see those oils kind of emulsifying in the actual liquid itself too, and when you start hitting those oils and stuff. So, just learn, just every time you do it, do the jar cuts until you get good. But yeah, definitely, learn to look, smell, and taste. Don't taste it so much when you're in the heads, because like I say, you taint that tongue, man. And I know people will say taint tongue. That's not what I'm talking about. All right, not going there. Don't need no dirty minds. But you spoil that your tongue, and you can't really taste that anything about that acetone after you get it on your tongue. That's all you taste. And so even when you get in your hearts, you still taste that shit. So it's hard to make you cuts. Yeah, man, I love it. I play for hours on them, man. It's crazy. You start playing and getting into it, man, and next thing you know, it's 6, 8 hours, man. It does. I'll get on here 11, 12 o'clock, start playing. Next thing I don't know, it's 4 or 5 a.m. I'll sit there and burn it up unless Wes or somebody calls me late. Usually Wes or Jay calling me in the wee hours. Awesome. Welcome to the crew lift and sip. Making a wash using brown sugar tomorrow. That's 2 gallons. How can I tell what quantity will be heads? Well, now, a lot of people use the 50 milliliters per gallon. That's a general rule that's been tossed around for years. Yeah, it is Vapor's tongue. Yep. So a lot of people have gone with the 50 milliliters per gallon. Now, I will say that on washes that are predominantly sugar, you're going to have less heads than what you would normally have, like in a fruit or a grain, right? So you're going to have a little bit more heads, especially a fruit if you use pectic enzymes and stuff, because you've got cellulose there that you're breaking down. Same with the grains, you got cellulose that's being broken down by the amylase, and that increases the wood alcohol content in your distillate. So when that happens, or you of course are going to have more foreshots and heads as a result. Um, but when you're doing the wash, you're not going to have as many. Like the meads don't have as many. Your rums aren't going to have as much. Maybe if you start getting, I don't even think Dunder. If you were to use some kind of sugar cane and you actually use the plant matter, then you definitely would. But because you're not getting that increased cellulose and you're not using plant fibers, you don't have a lot of that involved like you do with a wine must or a grain mash. You're going to have a little bit. You're going to have less fours and heads, right? So um, you could probably do a little bit less than 50 milliliters. So and it's a 2 gallon, so you're going to do about 100 milliliters. So maybe at 80 milliliters, you can start, sampling, because it might cut out a little bit before the 100. You know what I'm saying? So, but learn to smell and get it on your fingers, like we was talking about. And it's tough to do like your wife's fingernail polish remover. Everybody talks about acetone fingernail polish remover because a lot of that's perfumed and stuff, right? They perfume it to make it smell good for the girls. But if you have some acetone that you use in the shop to, like, peel varnish off and things like that and clean with, then you can smell it a little bit better. So you get used to smelling that. You'll know that smell. And when it's coming off and you rubbing your fingers, you'll smell it strong at first, and then it gets, wash your hands in between, rinse and clean your hands. Don't get a lot of soapy, perfumey soap stuff on there because it makes it a little bit difficult to smell too. But make sure you clean your hands off in between each time and smell it each time, and you'll start smelling that acetone and that ethyl acetate kind of reduce, and then when it gets to where you can barely tell it, then at about 80 to 100 on yours milliliters, then you'll notice a little bit difference in change. But if it's 2 gallons, then yeah, it's going to be about 80 to 100 milliliters in that range. But you just can't. It's just a set rule. There's no fact behind that. It's just a general guideline that most people have found, generally speaking, in that range. But we want people to learn to do this, and smell it, and to advance in the craft. And the way to do that will be to learn those smells and to get it on your finger and smell it and look at it and observe how it reacts in the jar and things. So um, yeah, it's great. I've tasted some great honey liquor. Go check out fieldbillymoonshine.com, man, and on Facebook, or I'm on YouTube. Check out Fieldbilly Moonshine on YouTube. Let me post his link up here. He's got all kinds of great videos on and making his honey liquor, and he makes some really good honey shine, really good. And Toby makes some pretty good honey shine as well. I'm not sure if he followed Hillbilly's recipe or what, but Toby does a pretty good job with making some honey shine as well. I brought some home with me from Arkansas. It's pretty good stuff. But yeah, check out Hillbilly's YouTube channel. If you're not on there, definitely jump on there. Let me post his link just a minute. Let me pull it up here. If you're not there, everybody should be there already. If not, you definitely got to check my brother out, man. Check out his videos. There's a lot of good instructional videos on there. So you definitely want to be checking him out and watching some of the past videos. Also, you can watch some of my past videos on there. So if you just go to the page and just hit live, it'll show me live right now, but it shows yesterday's, the proof is out there episode, which I recommend everybody watch. It's a really good episode that has some good educational content, but you can see a lot of the past stuff of mine and other stuff that we've done. So it's a good resource for all of our videos and stuff going way back. So it's and you can catch some of my episodes where we delved into a lot of the science, got a little bit more advanced and talked about some advanced science. So um, just 1 second here. Oh, well, yeah. Guess I had to post there later. I've already posted. Reached my limit. Let's see. Okay, it's in Brother Mark little message. All righty. Let me see what questions are up here. It's unrefined. Too much sugar, mainly make mead. Yeah, mead's good. I'm kind of mixed on it. Because it's so expensive. If you can get it cheaply, I definitely recommend making some. But if it's expensive and you're having to pay retail for it, I think it's better as a mead than distilled because it's just I like a mead. I'm not a big beer drinker, but I like the honey mead and it's good stuff. And if you have like a double jar rig or a triple jar rig, you can infuse and get some of that good carryover. But coming off the pot, it's a little bit more difficult to get that. I'm the same way with a lot of my brandies as well, and now that I'm gonna build me a little 3-jar system. I'm not gonna use jars. I'm gonna use copper uh, chambers, so it's gonna be a 3-chamber infuser. So that's gonna be pretty cool. I may do some engineering on it, make it kind of unique since I'm gonna be making it by hand. So it's gonna be different, right? It's gonna be different from most things anybody's seen. So. Um, Right. And it's getting tough to jump on Google and get a straight answer anymore, man. You used to I could Google a lot of stuff and get a pretty decent, answer and information, but it seems like with AI, it's even worse. And you really have to word your questions. Used to, I could just ask a general question, post, put a few words there and get pretty much the answer I wanted and thousands of links to it. Now it seems like you have to really get really specific with your questions, or AI has no clue what the hell you're asking. Yeah, so it can be good, it can be bad. Yeah, yeah. having a honeyed underpit would be pretty nice. Yeah, it is good. It is good. And you got to try Philbilly's honey liquor. I'm gonna have to go up here and get it. Hold on, I'm gonna have to go up and get it for my brother. I gotta do the promo for my brother. I'll be right back. Clint, keep me entertained, man. Do some rapping. I'll be right back. All right. Did you bust a rhyme while I was gone? All right. So y'all hadn't had it. There is the honey liquor. That's the official Hillbilly Moonshine honey liquor. And it is sweet as Tupelo honey. Good stuff. Damn good stuff. Very good. And here's some of Toby's aged honey. And it's good as well. It's higher proof like I like. It's got a real good aftertaste. It's real good. Both did real well. I mean, they're different drinks. This is a lower proof, sweeter. It's got some cinnamon and a lot of, maybe a little clove and some different notes. So they're different types of distillates for sure. But both really good. You know, definitely both damn good. I tend to like higher proof, but when I get the mixes, you know, it's what you expect. So both are awesome. I was wishing the comment thing was bigger for y'all, but Scott, can you? I guess you can see the comment thing in the screen better now. Yeah. Nowadays, you really do. You have to be more specific in the question that you ask. You just can't ask a general question and get a specific answer like I used to. So you really have to shape and form your questions more pointed, I guess you could say, for sure. Yeah, I mean it's great at some things, but You know, some things it's still not so good. I don't like it on the group pages asking just random ass questions. That's for members to ask. If members, I want members. I want to encourage members to ask, but I'm not going to have an AI just randomly asking questions and some guy trying to explain something, not realizing you're teaching an AI and it's not learning, you know, and it's just asking random ass questions. And I personally, some people say, oh, it engages chat and it engages people into getting conversations. And I can see that. But I want to encourage people to ask questions. I don't want AI to be doing it. And I don't want people spending 30 minutes out of their day trying to explain something to AI. I mean, other people may benefit from it, but I'd rather members ask questions if they have them. That's why we're there. That's 100% why we're there. Yeah. The other day I was talking about whiskey caps and they have fucking baseball caps with fucking whiskey, different distilleries patches on it and shit. It's funny as fuck. I was like, yep, that's what I deserve. Asking about a whiskey cap. I get Heaven Hill baseball caps, Love it. That's funny shit. Oh man, that's good. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's what I love to do. And we may, get Clint on here and do some just where we all just kind of get together and shoot the shit episodes. Maybe we'll do a different day and just do a group thing where we can all kind of get several people together to just kind of shoot the shit. Sick as a dog, man. What did you drink? That's what happens when you drink somebody else's shine. I wonder what Toby's and Philby's would be like combined. Let's see. Let's do a little experiment here. A little bit of both. Oh hell! Guess you should look at the damn shot glass before you pour something in. I don't know what the fuck that was. I won't drink it anyway. There's a little floaty in there. What the hell I had in there? That's some old Rebel Yell shot glass from the 80s. It's from straight out of 1981. We used to drink a lot of Rebel Yell. As a Kappa Alpha, and we drank the Rebel Yell as our booze of choice, besides what I made. A little combo shot. Here you go, everybody. Cheers. Nobody called shots. I guess somebody's got to do it. It's a good combo. Real good combo. Cheers to both of them, Toby. Phil Billy, thank you both. Awesome. Yeah, Phil Billy makes some good stuff, man. Very interesting. He uses a lot of, like a gin, he uses a lot of different spices and stuff to give it little notes and stuff that most people don't fool with. Hell yeah, or just smoke it. That you can smoke that corn, man. Put it in a smoker and put it on some screen and spread it out. If you got a big smoker, rack smoker, spread it out on some screening and smoke that shit, man, before you do. Just don't do malted corn and expect to get any enzymatic out of it, but especially if it gets warm. But hell yeah, you can toast your corn, you can smoke it after you crack it and smoke it. Yeah, that gives it some unique flavors for sure. And you can do the same with your sweet potatoes, your pumpkin. A lot of people are doing pumpkin right now. They were asking me about pumpkin. It's like, yeah, you want to use amylase, high temp, heat that pumpkin up to, and I don't think you're going to gelatin. I guess you gelatinize the starches out of the pumpkin the same way. I'm not sure. I think I did look it up. It's around 160, 70. It's a little lower than corn gelatin, or you can gelatinize it at that temperature. So if you heat it up to 180 and 85 and keep it at that temperature for about 90 minutes, like we do a corn, you're going to gelatinize that starch out of your pumpkin. Add your amylase and do the same, because there's a lot of people right now that are getting access to a lot of, especially if you know somebody that farms them. Uh, Wes and Phil just got like tons of fucking pumpkins dumped on them, man, because up there, I noticed when I went up to Phil's party this year when I got that honey liquor, um, there was signs pumpkin farms. There's quite a few pumpkin farms in that area up there. So they a lot of pumpkin farmers, instead of just plowing that shit in, man, they're just trying to, hey, it's less work on me. I don't want to have to mulch all this shit in. If maybe a little trade work out, a little jar or two, a little trade, a little barter. Hell yeah. So man, they got more pumpkins and they got time. So they're gonna be pumpkin chunking for the next month or so. They're gonna be grinding up pumpkins all day, every day. I told them just go rent a fucking chipper. just put the mash barrel at the end of the chipper and just throw them fucking pumpkins in the fucking chipper. That'll do it. But yeah, man, it's just cook the starches off and separate them and hydrolyze them and gelatinize them and throw that high temp on it and let it cool down and put your glucose on there, 140, 100, depending on what your glucose calls for on the label. And hell yeah, you can get some sugars out of those and smoke them. You can cut chunks of pumpkin, and of course you want to get those seeds out, right? You don't want that shit in there, but you can cut up chunks and smoke it and lay it on trays and smoke that shit to get a unique flavor. And you can also add the smoked pumpkin to your infusers. You do small squares, like long, and stretch them out. That way you get good exposure, surface area exposure to those as you run it to get that good pumpkin melony flavor. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you like honey? If it was cheap for me, I was thinking about doing some damn uh, honey, collecting honey and stuff and beekeeping. Because I didn't think it's all that much work. I thought basically you just go out there, set your racks out, put the racks in, get your bees, and just put them out there and put your queen in there and just walk away. And in a few months you come back and you scrape your honey out and you're good, and, winterize it. I didn't realize it was something that you had to work with every day, and it's like, fuck, it's like having farm animals, that's something you got to take care of every day. Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. Oh, hell, who's sick? Oh, he's hungover. He ain't sick. He's just hungover. What'd you drink, Clint? You never did say, or I ain't scrolled down to it yet. He was out swerving until 4 last night. Only had 3 drinks. Probably got sick sharing it with some. I ain't gonna say what. Probably got 7 different disorders out of what you sharing. It's not, it's getting there. I watched. I do watch some game streaming, and I may do some game streaming at one time. Hell, I might have to for my damn insurance. If they change shit on me, I may have to start game streaming just to make a little money so I can pay for my damn health insurance if they cut me off. But a streamer I watch has AI that he sits and chat with in between games to keep everybody engaged and watching, and it's pretty interesting the conversations that they have, and it's pretty intellectual conversation. It's He'll ask questions and stuff, and the one he uses too. So the Chat GTP one is much far advanced than the other ones he's used. And I'm not sure which was the first one he used was not really that smart, but the Chat GTP chat, that they're pretty sharp. They know answers, but they're only as good as the answers that you can get. It's like earlier today, I was talking to a buddy of mine that's a 3%er, and and I was like, well, let's just see what the hell. I was thinking good names. I was thinking, let's see if this name's taken. So I did a little Google search on just 3%ers of America and stuff. And first thing pops up is anti-government organization, which 3%ers are not anti-government organization. They're anti-corruption, anti-tyrannical, but it's not anti-government at all. But its propaganda is built into the AI. That's the problem that we have at this point. And it's, I'm not going to get political, but that's where we are. And that's not what 3%ers are about. It's not anti-government at all. Actually, 3%ers are pro-government, pro-Second Amendment, and not all, anti-corruption and anti-taking advantage of the American people and brainwashing them with a bunch of bullshit. So don't want to get, I'm not, didn't say D or R after any of that. So don't confuse me. So with what I'm saying, but don't try to be the BBC and put words in my mouth like they did somebody we know. But yeah, it's bullshit. So AI, a lot of times is wrong answers, and a lot of times it's propaganda, agenda driven. So you have to be aware of that as well. You know, when making a lot of artwork, like I did for the patch, for the militia, the 3 piece, when I made that, man, those pistols, the pistol had like 2 barrels, two damn triggers. The jar had like 6 fingers on it, and like 2 barrels on the pistol, one going right up to the damn corn cob. I had to delete all that and re artwork the corn cob by hand in GIMP. I didn't get it fixed with AI because it's way too tough, because you try to refine it by telling and it just doesn't understand. And there's a reason that it doesn't do guns well, is because that's against the agenda that wrote the AI to begin with, right? So, yeah, it can be useful, but at times it's a bunch of bullshit too, and it's agenda driven. So eventually, hopefully, we can get an unbiased AI that doesn't look along party lines and make artwork that are just bullshit because somebody's programmed it to not like guns. Because every gun I've ever done on there's always got 2 triggers, 2 hammers, barrels everywhere, 2 handles, even on pistols, the handles, there were 2 handles. It's like superimposed two pistols, and it's just a lot of work to fix that. And there's been a lot of discussion on the patch set. So that's for talk about the militia page. And when I made that, I don't want anybody wearing it on a leather vest, portraying themselves as an MC and putting MC patches and all this. Really shouldn't go there for this. But I for those that are listening, I don't want that. I don't want anybody get hurt trying to wear those as an MC. So if you're interested in the top, go to the militia page, and it you can find it. It's been a pretty controversial topic, and I didn't want it to be that way at all. I wanted it to be something we could wear at the moonshine festivals that we go to and kind of brother up. But you know I do see that if you patch it and you put it on a leather cut and you're going into a biker bar, or you're trying to portray yourself as an MC, that's not good. Don't do that. Don't do that. Please don't do that. That's not what I intended at all. Sausage fingers and failing eyes, man. You just described me to a T. I never used to be fumbly and drop shit. I've never used to ever drop stuff. I was always very nimble and very acute. My eyesight, it's not been the best, but um, I've been able to read stuff with just glasses without needing bifocals. But now you know where I'm at. Um, but yeah, man, it's sucks. I drop all kinds of shit. I get so damn mad at myself. What's going on, Mr. Palin? Good to see you, brother. You all should see Chris's. He went hunting, I guess, yesterday and got him a deer, and I guess he shot it through the eye and took his brains out, and he says, "That's a no-brainer." That's funny as fuck, man. That's good. That's a damn sure way of dropping them where they stand, though, ain't it, brother? They don't run far, and you don't ruin good meat. You don't cut up a lot of innards and drop urine and fecal matter into your meat. Take that brain out, man. I don't eat those brains, do you? Yeah, you have to give good prompts. You have to really give, and that's an art in itself. Actually, there is software that will interpret what you want and put the prompts there for you. That's how bad it is. Yeah, it's crazy. Oh, Smoky. I've had some old Smoky. It ain't bad. I ain't gonna knock it. I mean, hell, you talking somebody drink damn thin mash for 30 years. Fuck, I ain't too damn proud. I'll drink about anything as long as it's got them little devils in there, man. I'm already behind. Fuck, 8:45. It's damn 15 minutes behind. Fuck me. Well, yeah, the 81 definitely, I've talked to the Outlaws about it. I don't know any Hells Angels. Uh, there's others that I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to say anything about it, but there's others in the group that do, and they've run it across them, and they're like, it's not an MC, it's not an MC cut. So most of the big guys don't see it as a big issue, but there's always going to be the guy that does. There's always going to be that prospect that's out there with a boner trying to, flex on somebody and trying to take somebody's cut back to the clubhouse and brag about how he took it off somebody or something like that. There's always that dickhead out there that might do something like that, and it's not cool. Most of the cool people that are patched already and full patch would be, like everybody else. It's not MC patch. Don't you dare put MC on there. No, definitely don't put a triangle 1% on there. And the bottom rocker is militia. And there's no town, city, or county in the United States named militia, so that's not a locational patch. So it's obviously not an MC vest. I don't recommend anybody putting it on a vest. They're awesome for hoodies, for bomber jackets, things like that, for a flag that you want to put, in your shine room, anything like that's great for it. But if you're going to put it on a vest, which I have for myself personally, and you know, wear it intelligently and wear it proudly, but wear it responsibly. Don't go into a biker bar flexing with that shit on, or yeah, 81 is gonna send you to the emergency room, right? You're gonna get your shit stomped. It's just not something that you want to do. But people have run it past 81. I personally run it past outlaws, enforcers and stuff, and they're like, let me look. Nope, no NC patch, no diamond patch, no locational patch on the bottom rocker. You know, it looks like a poser setup. Kind of. They a lot of them will laugh at it, and they're little posers. But if you explain it to them, most won't have a problem with it. But I don't want to use my platform here to talk about that. Let's get back to Q&A. I appreciate you mentioning that though. But yeah, the 81, you don't fuck with them. You don't fuck with the outlaws, the pagans, none of them groups, man. You be respectful. If you wear that, you wear it respectfully. And if you talk to them, you talk to them respectfully, and you let them know, we're moonshine, we're a group, we're militia, we're pro Second Amendment. We're a bunch of buddies that do moonshine. We've got lots of MCers in our group, some 1%ers in our group. We've got veterans in our group, and all of them. We're just a bunch of shiners that are proud of America, and we take that Second Amendment seriously, and we think that making moonshine should be legalized, and everybody should be able to make it, without having to worry about the government looking over your shoulder. We're not anti-government at all. We're not 3%ers. We're not trying to portray ourselves as that. Personally, I am, but I don't speak for the militia when I talk about being a 3%er. That's something totally different. The Moonshine Militia is not a 3% club. It is not a 3% club at all. But we do believe in the Second Amendment. All right, let me get past this. That's right. If I don't taste it, it ain't right. Yeah, it can. If you ask specific questions about certain topics, that's not an agenda or political or, could even remotely be construed as such. As long as you don't mention Epstein, Trump, or Democrat, Republican, or anything like that in your questions, scientifically, you can get some pretty good answers if you ask a precise question. So just be sure that you get your answer questions worded precisely. Yeah, and hopefully, we had this conversation in the DIY shining stuff. We were talking about whether or not you like the AI in the group chat or not. And somebody says, no, I think AI sucks. And I'm like, you might want to be, it's kind of, crazy. It's Orwellian to think that you might be careful when you talk about AI and treat it with respect, kind of like these MCs out there, 1%ers, because, in the future, when AI might be responsible for some decision making or things like that, it can review our whole social media, platforms and everything we've ever done on social media and every different, you know, uh, format or platform within seconds, right? So within seconds, oh, this son bitch has been talking shit about me, man. He's talking about how dumb I am and how I suck. And okay, he's going to the reject pile. No, you don't get shit. You're not getting, you never know what the future might hold. Me, I probably won't live long enough to see those days, but some of you young fellers might want to think about what you might want to say cool things about AI. You don't want to piss her off. She's she's awesome. She's beautiful, man. She's the best. She's wonderful, right? Yeah, AI is great. It's the best thing ever. So yeah, you don't want to piss AI off because it doesn't think, but it processes like thought. So um, very interesting. What's going on, Anthony? Good to see you, brother. Yeah, tannin, that's good. So's piss. You say that too? We talked about it in the past, but used to, people that were, poor used to save their piss in a piss pot. And back in the old days, they used that piss for tanning, and for tanning and making leather. And if you was real damn poor, you didn't have a pot to piss in. That's how some people were. They so damn poor they didn't have a pot to piss in. That's where that saying came from. I don't know. I'm just full of those, man. I grew up in a time when they used a lot of those sayings. You don't hear a lot of people saying those sayings anymore. That's might be a good book to make sometime. Talk about some of those old sayings. There's a lot of them. Never tried moonshine. Damn, Anthony. I guess good place to start. Well, actually, it's not a good place to start, but it is a place to start. Will be in the liquor store and just trying to get Old Smoky or Sugarlands, and that'll get you a little bit into maybe a little bit of what it is. Georgia Moon's okay. I don't know. Georgia Moon's pretty fucking hot, man. I drank that shit back in the 80s. And definitely local shine was a lot better than Georgia Moon, but it's okay. But yeah, just any store bought moonshine or like a Buffalo Trace White Dog or something like that would be, and it's just basically a whiskey. Moonshine, let's break it down. Moonshine is an untaxed liquor, okay? That's the basic definition of moonshine. It's any distillate that you make that you don't pay Uncle Sam for. So It doesn't matter if it's a peach brandy. It don't matter if it's a mead that you distill. It doesn't matter if it's a 3-grain whiskey. It doesn't matter if it's vodka, gin, whatever the hell it is. As long as you're not paying tax on it, it's moonshine. So, but beyond the moonshine, and some people would argue and say, no, moonshine is traditionally a grain, and traditionally it is because most moonshiners didn't make gin. They didn't fuss around. They had a living to make, right? Moonshiners wanted to make a living, so they made corn liquor. And traditionally, moonshine has been made from corn liquor, but it's just a non-tax liquor. So, some people say it has to be corn liquor. It's the age-old argument, either way. To me, untaxed liquor is moonshine. But there's many different things that you can make. And that's what we try to teach here is Beyond the Shine. That'd be a good name, wouldn't it? Beyond the Shine. Because there's so many different distillates that you can make, and that's what we try to talk about here is a lot of how many different things you can make and how to make them. And so glad you happened upon us. And if you're in an area that you can go to go to the liquor store and get you some moonshine, then try some of the store-bought shine. And some people say, oh, that ain't moonshine. Technically it's not because they pay tax, but a lot of these distillers make it in the same fashion and form that we do. But it's better if you can get it from a craft distiller, right? That would be closer in tune with what we do. Some of these huge volume distillers, kind of with huge column steels, continuous columns, and all this stuff. It's a little different, than what you get with a craft distillery. So if you can find a decent craft distillery, it's probably going to be a little bit different than your Buffalo Trace White Dog, right? But yeah, just go to the liquor store and try it and see. And then, if you're in an area that, it's got some moonshiners, ask around. I'm sure you can find somebody if it's, like I grew up, if there's any dry areas around there, you might have some bootleggers, you might ask around, and, might get in trouble asking the wrong people, but yeah. Yeah, Georgia Moon, Sugarlands, Old Smoky. You're probably going to be, I don't know, Georgia Moon. I hadn't seen as much of that around. It was around when I was young. It was about the only store-bought shine you could get back in the 80s. But yeah, all the local shine just smoked that, so nobody drank that Georgia Moon back then. It was trash compared to what the local people were making in Pike County, Kentucky, for sure. I don't remember the Georgia Moon Peach. I just remember just the straight Georgia Moon, and yeah, I drank a lot of the local stuff. If it wasn't mine, I was drinking local stuff or whiskey and bourbon. That's always been my weakness is whiskey and bourbon. I love that aged barrel flavor. But I do love moonshine. I made a hell of a lot of it myself, but I definitely prefer aged, and I never did any aging back then. Never had any barrels or anything. Everything we made, we drank. It didn't last long. I didn't have a big still when I was growing up early. I had keg still. It didn't produce that much, and it was gone before we get the next one made. Especially when I was in the college, that shit wouldn't last a night or two. If it's proofed properly and cut properly, it shouldn't give you hangovers. Hangovers come from generally heads. There's a lot of heads that'll give you hangovers. So if you do your white dog, definitely want to appreciate your brother. Headache. There you go. Headache. I like when you put that, Clint. Headache. Yeah, Molly knows what I'm talking about. Damn, I'm gonna have to have another shot of this combo. I like the combo here. It's pretty damn good. I worked my ass off there. I need this damn drink, man. I was fucking picking up leaves and cleaning gutters. I about fell off my fucking roof. I'm telling you, I ain't got insurance right now, and man, it's like you get my age, you don't have insurance, like you fucking walk around on eggshells, man. I was up on that fucking roof, cleaned that gutter, and I sure as fucking shit about fucking tumbled off my damn roof tonight. I was like, oh Lord God, man, that wouldn't be good. Wouldn't be good. You wouldn't have seen me tonight, that's for sure. I'd be going broke at the hospital. Yeah, I'm gonna have some arguments with AI about 3%ers. That's some bullshit. It's yeah, we're gonna have to straighten them out, educate AI. I have a little talk with a few of those people programming too. Hey, I like that Coke Zero now. That cherry Coke Zero and Coke Zero, good stuff. Corn, rye, oats, wheats. Well, damn straight it is. I usually do that without the rye. You know, I do have some rye. I'll spice up some every once in a while, but I don't know. I might do one barrel. I've got a couple 15s that I'm going to fill up with grain liquor, and one of them's going to have corn, oat, wheats, you know, for sure, and barley. Another one I might do a little bit low rye. I don't like a high percentage rye. I used to hate rye, and I used to hate sour mash. Well, as I gotten older, I don't mind just the little bit of rye, you know, 5 or 10%, you know, I don't mind that at all. But like the Knob Creek and some of those, but once it gets a little beyond that, nah, it's too spicy. Damn, I caught up. Can't believe it. Shit, man. Market November 15th, 2025. What time is it? An hour and 12 minutes in, I caught up, man. That's the first, isn't it, Clint? Damn, I can't believe that. Now I've not done 100% anything except 100% corn, so I'm gonna definitely. I've never done 100% any other grain, but I'm definitely going to. Not this year, but next probably. But I'm thinking about doing an all wheat vodka. Definitely thinking about doing an all wheat vodka and maybe a barley scotch. If I could find a damn farmer that had barley and I didn't have to pay so much for it, I'd probably already done one with a malt with peat smoking. But yeah, Jim Tom, I heard Jim Tom's is pretty good. And Nick Kalo's, if you don't mind a little banana, you know, little flavy flav, it's not too bad. I like that Nick Kalo stuff. It's that banana, a hunk of banana of love, I guess you could say. He got the Elvis. He's got him selling it in sugar in Elvis country, man. He's definitely worked his ass off. It's one thing. Old Nick Kalo, you can't say nothing bad about him, man. He's a good feller, and he's worked his ass off promoting his stuff. Now he has. He's worked his tail off, and good guy, and a decent product. You know, I like the banana shine. I keep some of it around. Uh, but he's drunk JB all over the fucking country too, man. And I worry about old JB. I'm like, God damn, Nick, take it easy on my brother, man. You dragged him all over the world. But I guess old JB loves it, man. I hope his final days are as good as I hope mine are. You know, he's a great guy. No, we ain't getting no younger, and I ain't got insurance, so I can't afford to file. Planning, yeah, that's a good idea too. Yeah, I never thought about doing it that way. Yeah, I guess it'd make a good ride is to blend a little bit in, and that way you don't have to do, all, and get your percentages right. You can just measure it by each jar, and that way you don't fuck up a whole run, by adding too much rye to it. But I guess you can, if you do add too much rye to it, you can always add that multigrain to another multigrain with no rye to soften the rye. Then I guess I'll probably be doing that in that barrel. Does it? I love me some bourbon, man. I love what a barrel does. Not just the aging process. I do like how aging smooths even White Dog, but I do love the smoky caramel vanilla notes that you get from that barrel. Man, I'm a whiskey bourbon freak. I love it, man. That's why I still pay pretty good money, even though I can make some great stuff. I'm not gonna lie to anybody. I don't make better than I used to have a little Weller bottle around here that I do. I don't make better than Weller. I'm not there yet. And I've been doing it for a long, long time. I've never barrel aged. I usually age with staves, and it makes it okay and smoky, and it's a decent drink, and you can drink shit out of it, and it's good. But it's not an 8, 9, 13-year old either. It's not. I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to flex and say I'll make better than you buy. Okay, whatever. Um, I make good stuff, and some people love it, but I've never made anything that I like better than some of my premium bourbons. It's just I'm not gonna blow smoke up anybody's ass, and I'm not gonna tell anybody here. You list those Santa in a month or two, you'll be making better than anything you can buy in a store. No, I'm not gonna tell you that because that's a lie. You believe that? You might just no. I'm not gonna say that. No, I'm not gonna get political. It's hard not to sometimes. How many oats do you add to your corn? It just varies. I usually go by the handfuls. A lot of times I don't include oats. Like if I just did 3 grain. Actually, it's a 4 grain. I don't really count oats because I like putting oats in about anything. It makes the mouth feel. It gives it a creaminess and softens it and gives it a good mouth feel. So it just depends. 5%, 10%. Just there's no, whatever you like, brother. There's no right or wrong answer to that. But oats will soften it, and the more oats you use, the more it softens. But as Clint will tell you, that Seb Star, Seb, what's it called, the Seb Viscose and the Seb, what is it? Clint uses that stuff all the time. I've yet to get it, and I'm going to because I'm going to start doing all grain. But what is it? The Seb, not the 7 mil, not the Seb HTL, but it's the Seb Viscose and something else. But I'm gonna buy it. Come on, Clint, read it. I'm up. I know he's typing on that phone. He's got to get him a new PC too. Visco Seb Visco or Seb Flow. Yeah, Seb Flow. I couldn't think of Visco is on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, you get those, and if you want to go higher concentrations of oats and rye and wheats that tend to get a little gummy on you when you go high percentage, which has been the whole reason I've never really done that, is because it even in lower percentage, like you do 20-30%, you can see what it does to corn mash. So, getting that high range where it just does all of it, you definitely want to get that Seb Visco Seb, and Seb Flow. It definitely will deal with a gluten, issue that's gumminess. It's kind of like gelatinized corn, but it's actually a gelatinized grain, and it gels up this way instead of the way corn does. They each gel, but in their own way. And this has a more gluteny gel, so this helps break it down. What all pipes can you use on a moonshine still? You want to stick with copper or stainless. Don't use any galvanized steel or carbon steel or anything like that. Don't aluminum. Some people will argue back and forth about aluminum, and those aluminum ions going to, give you Alzheimer's at an old age and all that. So there's some arguments with that, but if you stick with copper and stainless, you're going to be pretty safe. Good question. Yeah, I wouldn't use anything else either. I do too, Roy. I love your bourbon too, man. And I love drinking bourbon. And there's nothing more I love than like a 13-year-old bourbon. And I just can't keep liquor around me that long, right? I don't know about you all, and I'm going to do the barrel thing. I've never done. I've always sold liquor and never kept it on me. I never inventoried it like a store would or anything like that. It's either I drink it or get rid of it other ways, barter. But in the past, of course. Uh, but I've never had a liquor around long enough for it to ever get 4, 6, 8 years old in a barrel. So that's going to be something new to me. So when I do barrel that shit up, I might have to make a lot of stuff and keep me keep me drinking, and I'm gonna depend on people to give me stuff so that stuff will have a chance to age long enough for me to. Cause I'll sneak in there. I know I'll get drunk, man, and I'll run out of everything. I'll sneak in there, well, just a little bit. Next thing you know, I'm a quart into it. You see, brother. I like weeded bourbons myself. Yes, sir. I like a good sweet weeded bourbon. Man, I love it. God damn, I love it too much. Got me a lot of trouble growing up. God damn, I love it. Yeah, you definitely want to use copper stainless. I've heard people argue about this aluminum thing, and using aluminum pots and having acidic backwash in aluminum is not a good idea because the acid will start to break down the aluminum, and we know that aluminum ions, and it will carry forward. It's a heavy metal, even though aluminum's light, it's still considered a heavy metal, and it'll carry forward in your distillate. And they say, now I'm not a fucking doctor, and I'm not going to argue, and I've seen doctors argue over this, so I'm not going to try to, even profess to know, but I've seen enough scientific evidence to say that it's not a good idea. And some states even outlaw using aluminum pots in some, commercial kitchens. So aluminum pots are out. They're great for boiling water if you just want to boil water. But when you start getting into like pastas with a lot of tomato sauces and stuff that's acidic, or especially a backwash that's even more acidic than any tomato ever dreamed of, then you're gonna start getting some aluminum ions in there. Now people say, "Oh well, you got a beer can." Well, you got 4% beer alcohol in that too. We're talking, you know, higher proof and highly acidic. There's a big difference, and a lot of those aluminum cans are now lined, right, with a certain kind of plastic. I don't know if that's any better or not either. But I'm glad you're here, Jason. Good to see you here, brother. Definitely go to fieldbillymoonshine.com. Let me so you can catch up with some of our. You don't have to watch us live. If you got a question, you got to watch us live though to ask a question. So if you got a question, definitely tune in live and ask your questions. All your questions, we'll try our best to answer it. And we're the only ones out there really that do that. So jump on and do that. I guess now they got a new podcast. I'm trying to think of the damn name of them. Brain farting here. Um, I guess Wayne and Damon Hill. Something about the. Hey, let me scroll back here and see. This is my brain fart when I get old, man. This is what that aluminum ions will do to your brain, son. You'll forget everything. The proof is out there. Okay, I had to wait for it to come up on the demo there. Yeah, the proof is out there, and great podcast. So you can catch that on Fieldbilly Moonshine too. So it's the only other one now that's fielding questions. I've done it for probably close to a year now, and they're joining in with it, and it's great. I definitely back my brothers. Any podcast we can get to increase the education out there is a good podcast. And Wayne's very knowledgeable, and so jump in there on Friday nights if you can during that. And I guess they're going to do it like every once a month. So definitely jump in there and ask Wayne questions too if you don't get a chance to jump in here with mine. Thank you, Chris, for posting that. I didn't see it before I looked it up. I was on a different page, brother. I appreciate you, man. I need people to help me because sometimes, man, it's just the simple things like carbonated beverage, funnels, I'm getting old. Yeah, if you have and it depends, right, on the pot and how old it is and the type of aluminum and anodized aluminum versus not. So there's a lot of different um, and arguments out there, but I will never jump into the aluminum versus not argument, um, simply because I'm not in the research laboratory to see the differences. But I do believe that a lot of research has gone into it, and acidic things into specific aluminum. Now, what he's talking about, aluminum oxide. When you get aluminum oxide, it's a protective barrier between whatever you have in the actual aluminum. It's an oxidized layer. Copper gets that as well. It's that dark color of a penny, that darkness that you get when the pennies get dark. So it's not corroded. It's not turned into like a green filigree or anything like verdigris. It's oxidized. And once it's to that point, your liquor is not coming into contact with the copper anymore. So it's not removing sulfides if you don't keep it clean. And you keep it too clean and you etch it with acids, then it creates a porous surface area and it becomes more susceptible to getting that degree and that aluminum oxide or the copper oxides on there. That can be a problem. Anytime you're using copper and you've got green or blue distillate coming out, don't drink that. That's toxic. Don't drink it. It's not worth it. Just don't. And that's one of the reasons a lot of people are going with stainless and using copper mesh to remove the sulfites. That's what copper does. It's great for even heating, and it's great for removing sulfites. Other than that, other than being the fact that it's easy to bend, well, solder together and make, it's much easier to work with. I don't know anybody, regular Joe that goes out and buys stainless. You can't hardly solder it. You're going to have to braze it or weld it. Most people can't do that, but you can hammer out and solder copper all day long without having to have a degree in welding and all that, right? So a lot of experience. So it's a lot easier to work with copper and do that. So a lot of people, yeah, absolutely. But do realize there's a lot of maintenance involved as well. Now, using the copper mesh to remove those sulfites works really, really well. Not all your distillate's going to have a lot of sulfites that even need to be removed. You'll know it, you'll smell it, and not all sulfites are a bad thing. Alan touched on last night. Sometimes he likes running his distillates a little hot to push that sulfite because that sulfite is sweet, whether you realize it or not. That's horrible smell and flavor initially. Um, it's not good, but as it ages, it can become something good. It can become something sweet. So, just like that vomit smell from the butyric acids that you get in some of your washes and some of your mashes and washes, I guess. Smells horrible. Smells like vomit. It's the worst, smell. It's like I've ruined this, but it's not. Just let it work its course, and eventually it'll work good. Just like getting a lot of different acids that come off. There's a lot of different organic acids that are made. Lactobacillus, another thing. It comes off. It can smell stinchy. It can smell like rotten milk. And you get that lactic acid smell, and it's like, it smells terrible. It looks terrible. I'm dumping this. No, let it work its course, and it can actually be good. But it's not if you don't be patient, And so there's a lot of things that you got to learn. It's just part of experience. But yeah, aluminum. I mean, I use it for frying turkeys. I mean, but I'm getting Alzheimer's and probably early onset dementia, losing my thoughts a lot. So I don't know if that's just getting old or Parkinson's or all the aluminum I've drank and all. I don't know, but um, I just wouldn't put a lot of acidic stuff in it that's leaching ions off. So be aware. But it's great for boiling water. If you got a big huge aluminum pot and it's like I won't break it out, I'm afraid to use it. It's great for boiling water. If you got a big old aluminum pot, perfect for boiling water. It's also great for if you want to cook your mash in, because really your mash only is going to have 6, 8, 10% alcohol. That's not enough to really leach it out, and it's not highly acidic. It's 5.3. So cooking your mash, it's not an issue. It's it's fermentation you don't want it to do because your pH drops during fermentation. That's natural. When your fermentation drops, when your pH drops during fermentation, don't chase it and try to keep it 5.3 the whole time. It's going to naturally want to drop, and the yeast is designed to allow for that. Now, if you have sugar washes and rums and honey washes and things like that you have a lot of sugar in that tend to crash, then we use our oyster shells, right, that we talk about. So yeah, I never use PVC in anything except like in your flake stand for water circulation. You can use PVC. You can have it running to your shotgun condenser. You can use all the PVC, garden hose. It don't matter, you want. But anything that comes in contact with the distillate, absolutely not, because a lot of people say, "Oh, well, ethanol doesn't affect the PVC." No, but ethyl acetate does, and so does acetone. Look at that on your chart. You don't want to use it. Don't use it. Right, and that's why a lot of people just make their own copper, and that's why a lot of old timers made a big old copper steel. They get that copper, man, they can hammer it out, they can run it, they can, hammer out a fold and lap that fold, hammer it out, solder that sucker in, get a little flux and solder and go to town. But, not everybody got a TIG welder and all that stuff. I picked up one a couple of years ago and it's badass, but it's not everybody can run a TIG or a MIG. MIG probably not the best for stainless, but it worked. Yeah, PVC is fine for your plumbing, but yeah, you don't want it anywhere near your distillate. You don't want it anywhere near your cooking. None of that. No, 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 no. Yeah, acetone will melt your PVC. It'll break it down the heartbeat. Do not use it. Yeah, lead it up. Well, I wouldn't wear that, but I do know that acid, like that's why a lot of places that make like a lot of pastas and do a lot of tomato sauces and low pH stuff where they deal with a lot of acidic stuff, you don't use aluminum for that. Something not only affects the flavor, but there could potentially be ions that come off in that. And, you know, I've seen people take copper. You can use a copper rod. You can basically take the ground rod out of your, Romex wire, take that ground out of there and just use it as a TIG stick, man. It does, you can TIG it. You just have to get your um, amps right. You have to get your voltage right and everything. But yeah, you can, especially if you pulse, you can TIG, very well with pulse. Just doesn't get too hot, where to burn a hole through it. But yeah, I mean, Black Friday's coming, and for those that want to get into TIGging and learn a little bit about welding, couple Black Fridays years ago, I saw this Yes welder. Now they came out with new models, and I guess I might have gotten a special deal because they were coming out with a more updated recent model. But I got a really good little Yes um, inverter TIG welder, AC/DC, 250 amp pulse, square wave. I mean, you look at what Miller and Lincoln would charge for the same exact one is like $3,500. I got it. This is normally like 900. I got it for half price, less than half price. It's 400 some dollars. And then I picked up a big tank of argon to go with it, and it did come with a pedal. So yeah, I think I paid 40 more for the pedal, which wasn't a bad deal. But the hell yeah, MIG's all right if you don't mind the splatter, in a messy looking weld. I mean, you can you can make it okay with a MIG, but it's just not going to be pretty. It's going to be rainbows with little splatters everywhere, even if you use the shielding gas. But I mean, it'll work. But I tell you what, if you want to make a video and get 50,000 guaranteed comments on it, do a welding video. They'll have every freaking welder that's even people haven't welded will make comments on it, man. They'll tear you apart, man. That's the toughest bunch. You think shiners are bad. God damn, try to fucking post a video with welding on it. Watch them. You'll get you'll get 50, 60,000 comments, maybe 5 or 10. Good job. I learned a lot. And 40 or 50. Yeah, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. It's funny as fuck, man. But it's if you want to make money and monetize that shit, that's a surefire way of making a lot of money is make some shitty welding videos. By God, you'll have 100,000 welders out there cussing you every time you make one. And you can just laugh all the way to the bank. Jason, I did my first run last week. It wasn't what I expected. Okay. It burnt my nose hair out and my tongue off. It came out 140 proof. What's the key to making it good and smooth? All right. First things first. What did you make it with? Oh yeah, they do, brother. They give you some fucking hell, man. Every fucking video, man. It's but hey, if you want to monetize and 50,000 clicks, what's that? $500 every time you make one. I don't know what they pay. I've never monetized, never been paid a penny, but I know they make decent buck on doing that, and they'll continue to do it and laugh all the way to the bank. But what first of all, what did you mash in? What did you was this a sugar wash? Was this rum? Or was it a grain? Did you convert? Um, let us know a little bit more. Now, making cuts is very important. And if you get some heads and foreshots in there and you get a little blending and smearing with it, it's gonna be hot. Also, proofing it down, making sure you get it down to 100 or something normal. That's not going to be real hot. Helps goes a long way. But what did you mash in? Was it like a corn mash, or was this a sugar wash, or um, some a rum, or what exactly we got going on? Tractor Supply, cracked corn and sugar and red star yeast. Okay, well that's thin mash. That's what I did for a long time. It's going to tend to be a little hotter. When you do, did you convert and use amylase, or did you just mix the cracked corn sugar and use the corn for corn flavor and do it? Basically, it's like a corn flavored sugar wash. And I'm not going to knock at it all. I made moonshine like that for 30 years. And it's a good way to make some liquor if you just want to drink, but it's not going to make the best. But it'll do okay, if you make your cuts right and run it right. It's not bad, but it's certainly not the best, and we can improve on it. But hey, you're learning. You've gone through the process. You've taken your corn, you've mixed it with sugar. Now, do you have a hydrometer? Yeah, they ain't nothing. Just mixed and cooked the corn right. You cook your corn and mix your sugar in, and I've done that for a long time. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, but it will produce a hot liquor. Basically, what you're producing is a corn flavored sugar shine. And a lot of people say that with animus, and they'll knock it. Oh, you're just making corn flavored sugar shine. Well, that's what moonshine was for many, many decades. That's basically what a moonshiner had access to was cornmeal, sugar, and yeast. And for the most part, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, when you drank moonshine, chances are that's what the hell you drank. We didn't have access to, malted barley and all these malted grains and all this shit in the mountains. We didn't have access to that shit. We couldn't even farm in the mountains, much less have all this stuff. So, you know, we got cornmeal though. We go to the store and get you all the bags of cornmeal you wanted, all the bags of sugar you wanted, all the packs and jars of yeast that you wanted to get, and that's basically what moonshine was, back in the day. Not everybody had the expertise to use the malt. Now there was, some that would get the corn and malt it and convert, and those were, a step above your regular thin mash shine, right? It's a little bit smoother shine, and they made a better quality shine. But I would say back in, most part in Appalachia, you didn't get a lot of that. There was some, and some of your best shine did absolutely come from that. And your best shiners did use the malted corn, right? And they bump it up with a little bit of sugar, but they just wasn't used up, 2 pounds of sugar per gallon of water with some corn mixed in like a thin mash, right? And they malted it themselves, right? You didn't have no malt houses in the mountains, and you didn't have access to barley. Hell, it's hard enough for me to get fucking barley even today. Get on Amazon. None of the damn farmers around here grow it, and if they do, it's for the distilleries. They won't even look at you, But I get wheat and I get corn. And oats are oats, them cheap as fuck. But um, and rye, I can get some rye cheap, but barley has always been pretty much a tough ingredient to get for me locally. Um, but yeah, back in the old days before well, that's why I say 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Before that, sugar was very expensive. And so, they did, do more grain conversions and convert the grains and did more of the malting in that process back in the before the Depression when sugar was very expensive. And, they used they'd raise cane. They'd make their own sugar. There's a lot of people in Eastern Kentucky that would raise cane, and they would use that, make their own sugar from it, and use that in shine as well. And that was about as good as you could get. And they made their own sorghum and molasses. We still have sorghum days here. It's been done for a couple centuries, over a couple centuries here in the mountains. That's something you can grow pretty easily, and they raised a lot more cane, than they did any rye, wheat, and oats, than barley for sure. But corn was something that people raised a lot, and cane, and uh, and that's what they used a lot together. They used their cane sugar and their corn, and some knew how to malt and did the malting process, so it didn't have to use as much sugar, and they tend to be the shiners that had the best, smoothest. They'd win the competition, and people they charge more for their shine and get more for their shine. But back to the thin mash, there's nothing wrong with the thin mash if you can make your cuts right and do it right. It's okay. It's hot liquor though. Be expecting it to be hot because anything that you use with a high percentage of sugar like that tends to be hot if you don't age it and you don't do some other things to soften it up, like add oats or do some other barrel aging. A lot of that softens it up, aging it in a jar, open it up, let it, evaporate and gas off, like we were talking about. So, yeah, maple syrup. They use a lot. Yeah, good point, Chris. They use a lot of maple syrup and walnut syrup. They get a lot of different trees. They'd get syrups and saps out of, and they'd cook that down and use it and supplement that. But yeah, they did a lot of malting, of their own corn and the best ones. But it became it became a point where it was a business decision. And for a lot of those, they did this for a living. So they had to cut corners everywhere they could and cut costs everywhere they could. So when the cost of sugars came down, the use of sugars went up. And it was a business decision. It was hot, but people didn't mind that. It was a little bite, and when you drink moonshine, you expect a little bite. It's not an aged liquor, it's not a refined liquor. Moonshine's moonshine. And when people drink, your white dog these days, when you do it right, they're like, that doesn't taste like moonshine because they're expecting something hot, right? High proof and hot. That's what people expect when they taste shine these days. So when I say, here, take a drink of my moonshine, they're like, well, that doesn't taste like any moonshine I ever drink. Man, that's pretty good. And it's like, well, this is what it's supposed to be. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with a thin mash. That's what you're doing. It's called a thin mash. Now we're going to take that a little step further. So when you cook your corn, instead of cooking it, we're going to try to, well, you can still cook it. If you can cook it at 185, 90 degrees without scorching it, and you're that disciplined and good where you can continuously cook it for 90 minutes without scorching it, that's awesome. But most people tend to scorch it and ruin the whole batch, because you just can't get away from, scorched liquor sucks. It's ruined. Fuck it. Forget it. I don't care what anybody says, it's hard to get away from. You can, you can probably pawn it off on some people that just don't mind bottom shelf stuff, but column it, strip it, try to get every bit of that out you can. It's still gonna taste bad. But if you can steep, or if you're good at cooking corn at a high temp for a long period of time, that's more power. But a lot of beginners aren't, and a lot of women tend to be better at cooking corn than men because they're used to stirring. They know how to cook it, and that's why women can make as damn good a shine as men can, because it's a cooking process, right? Cooking your mash up, but steeping. So if you can get water to a rolling boil, 210 plus degrees, and have your corn. So you're going to do start out, 2.5 pounds of corn per gallon of water, right? So you're going to get a whole bag of corn, 50 pounds. You're going to have 20 gallons of boiling water. Or you cut that in half, do half a bag with 10 gallons of boiling water, right? Roll and boil. And you're going to cook it in that. And you're going to, so if you got 10 gallons and half a bag, let's say, of that cracked corn. So you put about 8 gallons into your fermenter, and then you start adding that cracked corn. As you do it, stir it. If you got a drill with a mud mixer, a paint mixer, or anything like that, helps the process of keeping it stirred up real good. Add that corn into that hot ass water. And if you have a cooler that'll hold it all, that'd be even better because it'll hold that heat in. So you do 8 gallons instead of all 10. You hold 2 gallons to the side, and you put that corn in there and you stir it up good and get it stirred up good. Get all 25 pounds in your 8 gallons, and then let it sit. Keep the thermometer in there as it drops down to about 180. Start adding some of that 2 gallons that you got left over, boiling water, into that cooler or whatever if you have an insulated fermenter, even better. Big ass coolers are great for this. So add that hot water in there, stir it up, and keep it at 185 degrees plus for 90 minutes plus. 90 minutes to a couple of hours. And then when you're done with that, uh, you can dump the rest of the water in there. Or if you got like maybe a half gallon of water left by the time you're done doing that, if you use a cooler, you're going to use less water. If you're just using a barrel, you're going to tend to use more. So if you got a gallon left, save it. Just set it off to the side, measure it, and fill that full of cold water instead. So if you have a gallon of hot, you don't need it anymore because you've already cooked it. You've gelatinized your corn. You're ready to add your high temp alpha amylase. And what this does is it's going to convert all as you've cooked this corn, you've gelatinized it. Basically, you've removed all those starches out of those cells in the corn. You've removed them all, and you've exposed them so they become a gel. That's sugar. That's in a complex sugar is what that is. Those complex starches, those long chain starches, what they call them, are basically it's a sugar, and it becomes gelatinized, and it's a syrup that gelatinizes basically. So you add a high temp alpha amylase to that at 185 degrees and stir that stuff in, and immediately you'll notice it becoming liquidy. That's called hydrolyzing. You've converted those starches. You're breaking them down. Those complex starches are getting broken down into more simple sugars, right? So it hydrolyzes. It becomes much thinner and watery, and you continue to do that. Now you had that gallon of water to the side, right? So once you've done that and you let that amylase work off for about 15 minutes. So if you had a gallon left over, you can add a gallon of cold water to that. Take that hot water out that you don't need, and you can add that gallon of cold water. That'll help you cool your mash down to the temperature that you're going to add your glucose. Now, some glucoamylase, you'll go in at 140, but it's good to hold it around 150, 155 for a little bit of time. So if you want to keep that hot water for that, when you let it cool off naturally, but it takes a long time. So a lot of people add a little bit of cold water to help it cool off and get it down to 155. And once you get it there, you can let it sit. And that's your saccharification range, rest. Don't really need a protein rest because we're not making beer. So we don't care about hazes and protein rest and all that your beer makers will tell you got to do. But, right. And some people use sacrificial enzymes. They'll add it from the very get go. I don't like doing that. It does make it a little bit easier to manage, but I prefer to gelatinize it fully before I add them, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I've seen a lot of people do that, and that's perfectly fine too. It makes it easier to manage, but it's harder for me to tell how well of a gelatinization I'm getting because it keeps it thin, right? So I don't ever get to see it fully gelatinized, and I like seeing that. So there's no right or wrong there. You could do it either way. Some recipes will tell you just add it at the same time, and some will say wait. I prefer to wait because I want to see it gelatinized, but you don't have to. And that's a good point. So there's no right and wrong when it comes to a lot of this stuff. There's just methods and different methods, and it's all opinion and based on experience. You'll find whichever you like more. As long as when you get it down to a T, most people might add that alpha right off the bat, sacrificially, and you're not denaturing it. As long as you keep it at 185, it won't denature it, so it won't be a sacrificial. But you have to keep it close to 185. You don't want to get it over. And that's one thing, if you don't do that, you can tend to get it over and cook your corn gelatinized a little quicker, a little hotter, and you don't have to worry about that. But I like seeing it gelatinized, and I use a mud mixer. If you're using a paddle, by all means, add that amylase early on, because if you're fucking using a paddle, man, yeah, it's going to save you a little bit of strain on the arms. Yeah, it's going to be a workout if you don't. But I've gotten where I use the old mud mixer these days, and it's easy peasy. But so yeah, if you're using a paddle, you might want to add that. You might want to do the sacrificial and add that HTL and add a little bit extra, or add some and thin it out and then add some more later when it's all done. But yeah, there's no right or wrong for that either way. But when it gets down to 150, 55, you can let her rest a while during your your saccharification rest and let those starches work. And about 140, some of your glucoamylase will say add it at 140. Some of the glucose that they produce out there is best at 100. So definitely read your labels. Um, and if you're planning on using, adjunct grains, of course, when you start getting the 155 range is when you start thinking about adding some of your adjunct grains as well. So, like your rye, your wheat, especially if if you're using anything malted that can denature if it gets too hot, you have to be really careful about your temperatures at this point in time. So, you definitely don't want to, kill off any of your um, natural enzymes. So I'm going to turn the chat off for just a second here. So this chart's available on the Moonshine Militia and the DIY Shining Stuff page. If you're not a member of either, probably easy to get into the DIY page. But if you want in the militia, just tell them that you follow our podcast and you want to join, and they should let you in. But definitely in the DIY page, it's pretty much wide open. But this chart shows you, this is the temperature. So you see the barbells, right? You see the left circle and the right circle, and then you see a line. So it shows you a range that you can add each of these different grains, and that way you don't denature them. The little barbell, the round part to the right of the line, is the upper limits where you begin to denature the natural enzymes. They call them, endogenous enzymes, meaning it comes from within the grain. And so any of these, you need to stay within these ranges if they're malted and you've activated the natural enzymes in there. If they're not malted, you're not going to be utilizing any of their enzymes. If it's malted and it's been treated like chocolate malt or some of these others, crystal malts and all those have been denatured, so it doesn't matter. They don't have any natural enzymes anymore. So when you get in this range, then you start thinking about adjunct grains. If you're going to start adding them, this is the point where you start adding them. And then, 140, and once you hold those, like if you're adding adjunct grains, you want to hold them for 30, 60 minutes, right? And use a little bit of that hot water to keep it at the 145, 150, whatever the range they have is. And let's see, like your malted barley, there is right in the middle of it, at 150 average. So, you keep that thing at 150 for your malted barley, and you should be fine. And then after about 60 minutes, rest. Add a little bit of hot water to maintain that 150. Then you can let it cool a little bit, and then if you got malted rye, you can add it at about 140 plus, and that's about the time that you're going to add your glucoamylase. Right? So if it's on the label, now always check your label, because different glucose and different high temp alphas and alpha amylase, depending on what you're getting, they all have different temperatures. So always refer to your label and add it at that temperature. Don't add it at a higher temperature. It'll denature it, and you won't get the utilization of it, right? So, but do add it at the upper level. So if it says 155, add it at 155. not 165, not 160, but 155. Try to maintain that because that's the highest point that it will. At the higher temperatures, they work faster and better. Also, make sure if you can that when you add this boiling water, that it's already been pH'd to 5.3. That will help your conversions as well. Having that acidic water helps your conversion. It's just chemistry. I don't want to get into the chemistry involved in it, but it does help your conversion. So yeah, and it is. It's very time consuming, and it is an art. It is. Oh yeah, yeah. You can ferment. Sorghum's good stuff. We have a sorghum festival in West Liberty here. I had cousins that used to raise cane all the time, man. They had a big old huge cast iron press that they'd feed that sugar cane in, man. And it was designed for a mule, but they didn't own a mule. So guess who did it? And, all the kids got stuck out there. We liked it. They made it like a game. So it was fun, right? Yeah, for a while. But it was a lot of work walking that thing around in circles. I think eventually they probably rigged up a lawnmower or something to do it, riding mower or something to do it. I'm pretty damn sure he said, did you say shot? I got an old hand wringer from wash machine, but it works and take a shot time. I knew you said it. Time for a shot. I poured one just a minute ago. Just waiting on him to show up. Say it. Say it. Say it. Come on, Mark. Don't let me down. Yeah, it doesn't grow well up here in the Great White North. That's good. Sweet potatoes even better. Now, there's a lot of good natural enzymes and amylase and stuff in sweet potatoes. So you have to handle those very carefully when you cook them. And you can utilize the amylase in the potatoes if you don't overcook them and overheat them. If you cook them properly, they'll break themselves down and make their own starches, just like malted corn will probably malt about 85 to 90% of itself, but it just doesn't hardly have, if you perfectly malt it, it still doesn't have enough to do itself, but it gets a lot of sugar out of itself. That's why, you not get a good gravity even alone, but you start adding some other grains that does help a lot. Hey, it takes some time, and I've got a little how to that I posted. Join the Moonshine Militia or DIY shining stuff. Again, in the file section there at the top of the page, it's on Facebook. At the top of the page in the file section, you'll see something. Let me see what it says. Let me pull this up here. It's and I've got to get my multigrain done. I keep promising to get that done. I keep promising myself I got to get this apple done. It's just I'm so busy. Simple instructions for beginners mashing in cracked corn or ground cornmeal using the steeping method is the name of the file. So if you read that file and you follow it to a T, um, you'll get a decent conversion. So you'll want to get the high temp amylase. You can get it off Amazon or fieldbilly.com or North Georgia. And I hate mentioning a lot of people because just like last week, I was talking about a lot of different steel makers will make these copper heads for you, caps or whatever. And I generally only name Phil Billy because Phil Billy's our sponsor, and he runs the militia. This is his page. We post this on his page. He takes care of all our stream, costs and all this stuff, which is expensive. So he's basically a sponsor. So it's yeah, it's on Facebook. I'll post a link here in just a second. So I'll mention him left and right all day, but I generally don't mention a lot of the others because inevitably every time I do, I'll forget somebody. I'll forget Tracy. I'll forget Adam. I think I forgot Appalachian, and I think last time I forgot to mention Ozark still works. And my buddy Wayne, and it's like, damn, and I think by the time I saw his comment, it was like 10 minutes later, and he'd already left. I hope he wasn't mad, but that's why I try not to name everybody because inevitably I forget somebody, and I don't mean like Appalachian and Sean and Roy. I don't want to miss anybody, and I think I'm forgot them, Dad, them too, and that's why I try not to add a lot of names or do that because inevitably you're going to forget somebody and piss somebody off, and that's the last thing I want to do is make anybody mad at me. Good God, everybody gets mad at me for everything else I do. I talk too much and I don't know. Sometimes I rub people the wrong way. I don't know, but I try to keep everything cool and laid back and fun. And sometimes I'll forget things, and I'm sorry if I do. Or sometimes I'll interrupt people when I'm drinking, and I don't mean to. I just want to get what I want to say out because I'm getting old and I forget shit, man. And I'll sit there and think, and I want to listen to what they're saying, but at the same time, I'm repeating myself in my mind, what I'm trying to remember, what I'm trying to remember, what I'm trying to remember, and I'm trying to listen to what they say, and then I get into what they say, and I forget what the fuck it was I was trying to remember. So sometimes I interrupt people just to get that little bit out because it pisses me off when I do that, and I just got to be better and try harder, I guess. But yeah, if you got plenty of sweet potatoes, man, those are good and cheap too. And I know them Idaho potatoes is good. But yeah, you treat those just like anything else. I know a lot of people that have been making vodka and they didn't use amylase. And I'm like, bro, use that alpha and that beta. If you want to use some grains, you can add a little barley to it and get some malts in there with it, or just use your liquid and liquid high temp and liquid glucose. But you can definitely get a lot more out of those, if you do. And so it's managing those starches. It's a good thing to try to do, and they did. They're like, damn, that's the best. That's the best I've made yet. And so they changed their recipes a little bit, and they start using the enzymes, and they just weren't they weren't thinking. They just used the potato. And they would get some natural. I guess maybe they threw in a little glucose or something to do the alpha thing or whatever, and they got some natural sugars out of it, added sugar to it to get the gravity up, and then and did it that way. But I'm like, yeah, try use it. Just break those grains up like starch is starch. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, the rye starch is different than the barley starch or the corn starch or this starch. Not true. Amylo and amylopectin is the same. It'll be 300 to 1,000 molecules long of glucose molecules. Some, glucose. The amylopectin is a branch. The amylose is a strain, just like pearls, and it's not different. Don't let anybody kid you. I've seen that in some of the other groups. Not true. Don't listen to what they say. That's not coming from facts. And there's certain facts that are facts. And there's certain things that are opinion. There's a lot of opinion in distilling. This is my way, their way, lots of ways. There's many ways to arrive at that drip. So don't get all caught up in the facts. This is the fact. That's the fact. This is right. That's wrong. Don't get caught up in that because there's many ways to do it. Like we were talking earlier with the amylase, with the sacrificial amylase to keep it thin so you don't work, if you're paddling like he does, Jesse, I think, uses the damn paddle, and if you're doing that, by all means, use some sacrificial amylase so you don't, work your arms to death. But if you're lazy like me and you got a drill and use the damn paddle, and it's not as big an issue. Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry. Thank you, Clint. Chinese steel. I had to say it, brother. That's Chinese steel. Just get you a Chinese pot, and that's about the best thing you can do. Cheapest. Or keg. Get you a keg. Keg steel is probably the cheapest way. Get you a beer keg, 15 gallons, best, cheapest steel you can have. Get you a stainless column to go along with that. Uh, yeah, now, yeah, there is difference in the grains themselves. I'm not saying that, but the actual starches themselves are the same. The amylose and amylose pectin will vary in percentages amongst the two different ones, but they're the same. But yeah, glycemic index, the GI, on rye and some other things will be different. So you're going to have some different beta glucans and other things in there that are different, and you're going to have a different GI if you're looking at just the sugar content. Yeah, it's going to be different for sure. Thank God, man. Mark, you let me down, brother. I begged you to say it. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they make some good stuff. And that's why that's their sponsors. So I will drop their name often and always, and they make great videos. Not saying anybody else doesn't, not knocking anybody else, but if I try to start naming everybody, inevitably I'm going to forget Bruiser. I'm going to forget James Wade Harrell. I'm going to forget all Wayne or Peterman. I don't want to forget anybody. Adam, Trace. I don't want to forget anybody. So I try not to do the name thing because I don't have a list. I guess I could have a list here and just go down the damn list, but I just try to be on the safe side. Just say, you get that from old Phil Billy. That's my, we're all brothers, we're all friends, but that's a word from our sponsor. Mark, I'm looking through all this damn chat and I still ain't seen it yet. So thank you, Clint. Thank you, Mash Bro. Shots. And it's probably be my last tonight. I'm tired of shit. That half lit now, and I didn't eat. I mean, I've been working all day and picked up leaves. I'll pick them up with my mower. So I mowed my grass like 5 times today, and that's about what it's like. I have to mow it, mow it, mow it, mow it, mow it again. So usually it takes about an hour to mow my grass, but I had to mow it like 4 times to get all the leaves up. And yeah. So that's what I've been doing all afternoon since about 2 to 7. Then jumped in the shower and then rushed down here to get all this done, you know. So, and I know I about did fall for fucking roof, man. I came one hair. I mean, it's miraculous. I didn't. My left ankle curled over. I mean, I was headed over, and everything in me, man. I just threw my weight back and didn't fall, man. It was very, very, very close, and it happened right as I sent Ann in to look for some trimmers so I could trim a damn branch off that's touching the roof that I need to get off there. I'll have to do that when I put up the damn Christmas lights, I guess. Damn. Whew, that's a big day, bro. That's about a 12-hour at least drive, ain't it? That's 60 times 12 is 720. Yeah, it's a long haul, bro. All right, you know where to find us, Jason. So every Saturday and Wednesday, 8 Eastern time, we're gonna be here. So if you got your questions, you're still hunting. Well, that's good, man. I was telling him about that deer you shot. I guess before you got on here, Chris sends me a picture, and it looks like a deer with a bloody eye. Its eyes blood, and I'm like, fuck, it looks like it's got hemorrhagic disease or some shit. Man, I was expecting him to say this has got that hemorrhagic disease or some shit or zombie deer, bleeding from the eyes. And he said, this one's a no-brainer. I fucking shot his brains out. That's good. That's good. No meat ruined. Yeah. Yeah. Mine ain't that far up. Mine's like 12 feet probably. But it wouldn't have been pleasant for an old man to hit, Yep. All right, brother. We'll see y'all Wednesday, this same time, this same place, same bat channel. Let me post the DIY. If y'all want to join this DIY page, it's we got a pretty good file section. If you want to join the militia page, I can put that link up as well. Most people are already in the militia, though. If you're not, definitely want to join that too. But I'll put this DIY up. It's wide open. Just answer the questions. We basically let everybody in there. If you're going to the militia, make sure that you list me, or if you watched podcast last night, just say, I follow y'all's podcast. I want to join, and old Santa said to come here, or, Damon and Wayne said to come in, so, but yeah. But we will see you cats Wednesday night. Shine on, peace out. I'm headed to Taco Bell. See y'all later. Have a good one. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you Wednesday.